Well, so the MK party has once again reiterated its call for a revote, stating that it will not accept the outcome of the results of the 2024 general elections. This past weekend, former President Jacob Zuma threatened to take legal action over allegations of election irregularities. Zuma spoke after the party announced that it had submitted evidence to the Independent Electoral Commission proving its allegations of widespread irregularities and alleged election rigging. Yesterday, key members of the MK party boycotted an official address by the IEC. The MK party spokesperson, Nhlamulo Ndhlela, is now joining us in studio. Nhlamulo, very good morning to you. So the IEC went ahead and declared the elections. Former President Jacob Zuma had warned the IEC against that. Now that they have done that, what's the next step for the party?
Well, it's very disappointing because we've always raised concerns, regarding the process that was followed in terms of these elections and the operations thereof. We've raised objections legally and as per the requirements of the IEC. The IEC doesn't seem to take those seriously, those objections, as per Section 55. And we now have to explore other avenues of how we then, intervene. One could be to interdict the swearing in at all spheres of government. Two, which is another option that we need to explore, is to boycott the first sitting of the National Assembly, of which with our seats, and including the other parties, if we were to decide to do so, the parliament would not correct and therefore not be able to elect a president.
How many political parties are you having this discussion with to boycott the first sitting?
So, more than 20, effectively. No, we're not having a discussion.
More than 20? We've got 18 parties in
I'm saying, well, it was initially more than 20 that had actually signed the writing. Yeah.
Okay.
So, no, I'm saying that it's not that we've had those discussions. I'm saying we're looking at, there's those kind of options on the table. So, pending the discussions that we will have, and obviously consultation with our lawyers, we'll take the decision to do whatever it is that's been advised.
And if you don't go the court route and go the boycott route, to what extent would you be boycotting the National Assembly? And until when would that be happening?
We've made our demands very clear. That these declarations are not a reflection of the people. Janet Love goes and stands there and refers to the people's mandate. What people is she referring to? We are voted in by the people of South Africa. Just yesterday, there were, day before yesterday, there were boxes that were found in a form of ballot boxes that were found burnt in Mpumalanga with votes in them. And then we need to take things nonchalantly. What is the rush? They know very well that they've got until Wednesday to make a declaration. And then between yesterday or Friday, at which point we made those objections, and Wednesday or at least Tuesday, to deal with them. But no, they don't take us seriously. They go and they just make declarations.
Yeah, they said they don't want to keep the country in suspense and just went ahead and declared the elections. How many objections did the MK party
keep the country in
raise?
suspense on the basis of what?
Yeah.
No, this is a serious issue. Why are they nonchalantly dealing with these issues? They deal with these issues nonchalantly, and that's the biggest problem. Why is it that as South Africans, we take things so lightly? Why do we take things such as this so lightly? It's a serious matter. This is infringing on the constitutional right of South Africans that voted. Well, what happened to those votes?
How many objections did the MK party raise?
We've raised at least more than 10.
More than 10. How many of those have been upheld? If any?
None.
None of them have been upheld.
None of them have been upheld.
And you were able to submit the evidence to that effect?
Including voice recordings, yes.
Yeah.
And they've got them.
What were the voice recordings say?
Voice recordings regarding communication of the IT company during the downtime of certain individuals referring to exactly what's happening in the background.
Yeah.
Yes. And these are serious issues. So why are they not taken seriously? Why is the IEC not even taking South Africans into their confidence in terms of those objections? Those are things we need to ask ourselves. Why is the IEC rushing? What's the rush? Why not deal with these issues? Keeping the country in suspense, is that really an excuse?
Yeah.
It can't be.
So with the objections that you've raised, 10 around them, you say that you've submitted evidence as well to the Commission. Those have not been upheld. Yesterday when we spoke to the Commission, they said that whatever objections are outstanding, they believe that it's immaterial. And the Constitution or legislation does give him the powers to go ahead and declare the elections, even with some of the objections being outstanding, if they find that it's immaterial. Do you agree with that?
What formula do they use to decide whether it's immaterial or not? Well, how do they go about that? They need to tell us. They need to share, firstly, because as far as we're concerned, the veracity of those objections that we've raised are very serious. And we've taken the seriousness of that into consideration. They don't seem to.
So what do you think happened? What's the MK party's case? What happened here?
Look, this is what is happening here. You know, firstly, to have, and you've seen it with the DA having sent a letter to the US, Foreign Secretary, where they raised that, an MK, ANC, EFF alliance, in effect, or a coalition thereof, would be detrimental to their agenda. Now, why send an email to the US? The same company that was involved here is also US-based and owned by a certain country, citizens. Which will
the auditors are granted saying that they could have been involved.
So the reality here is the following, is that this, what we know has happened when that system was down, certain votes were allocated to a specific party to ensure that MK is not at least minimum the opposition, the official opposition. Because effectively what that means is that by those two, meaning the ANC, for instance, and an MK coalition, with MK being the official opposition, it's detrimental to a lot of people because we would nationalize the mines, would force a position where we nationalize the banks, would force a position where we implement free education, would force the implementation of all our policies. And that would be detrimental to the DA and their handlers.
Yeah. So the suspicion of this IT company being involved in this, on what basis do you make that claim?
The suspicion of what?
Of the IT company being involved in the so-called vote rigging.
What do you mean, to what basis? This is remember we requested the IEC via PIA Act, Promotion of Access to Information Act, that they share with us what process they went about appointing these companies. And you'll recall, even last year, the IEC was involved with appointing and signing up all sorts of agreements with IT companies in a form of US-based IT companies, Google included, for instance. And we needed to know why and how did they go about that? What formula did they use and why those specific companies?
Yep.
So the IEC needs to tell us still today, how did they go about appointing these companies that became involved? That's what we need to know. And what role were they appointing them to play? So
is it then the MK's case that there could have been foreign interference in our elections?
There is foreign interference in our elections.
There is?
There is foreign interference in our elections. We know. We've given them that.
Which country?
And that's the reality.
Do you know which country?
And the reality, the reason there's foreign interference, as I mentioned to you, is because we know that the agenda here is to get an ANC-DA alliance, and by virtue of that, get Nhlamulo as a deputy of this country, so that they can, at a later stage, through probably even getting a speaker of theirs, topple Cyril Ramaphosa and make Jens Steenhuisen the president of this country. That's the plan. It's very simple. And then in that case, then who's in control of our country.
Which country are you saying?
That will surface at a later stage.
That will surface at a later stage. I quickly want to take you to this, the other part around the demands that the MK party has made. Should they go into coalition talks for the president of the ANC to step aside? Does this mean that conversation can only happen after you're done with all of these disputes?
No, I mean...
Or are you talking?
We have to speak. We have to engage. I mean, these things have to happen concurrently.
All right.
So we are engaging and we'll engage accordingly.
Yeah, and that still stands? That
still stands. I mean, we have to have discussions. Remember, at the end of the day, we have a responsibility here.
The ANC says there's no way that its president will step aside. That's a non-negotiable for them. Well, what's the MK party's response to that?
Is that the ANC or is that Nhlamulo?
It's the Secretary General of the ANC, speaking on behalf of the ANC.
Well, I guess, look, we will have our own conditions. We'll have our own conditions as they would. And we'll surface them at the right time when we engage, and that's that. But we've always said that we will not engage with the ANC or Cyril Ramaphosa. We've always said that continuously, and that's our position. Look, very simple thing. One of the first questions we'll ask, are you ready to change the Constitution? That's the first question we'll ask. And if yes, then maybe we can start talking. Maybe it's not even about anything else at that point.
Is the pardon also still part of it? Pardoning of former President Jacob Zuma?
Absolutely. What has President Zuma done? What has he done?
So the pardon is also part of the demands. And then finally, the case that is now before the High Court, the Electoral Court, that Jabulani Khumalo has now brought before the Electoral Court against the MK party. What's the MK party's response to this case?
Is there a case in the first place? I mean, he's clutching at straws. We've always said he's flogging a dead horse. He's just an attention seeker. We know that he's been having conversations and discussions with certain senior NEC, ANC members who's trying to drive an agenda, thinking that, you know, he'll be catapulted back into our party and then find himself as the premier of KZN. I mean, as to which planet he lives on, I mean, it's very strange. But in any case, we've looked at his case and there is no case. We're not perturbed at all.
Did he sign that letter?
He signed the letter,
He signed the letter.
Fact, he signed the letter. That's what's baffling. You know, the man signed the letter. You know, and then he says, no, he signed the letter, yes, but he didn't request that it be emailed. What does that make sense to you?
So the claim around the forgery of the signature is totally flawed.
He signed the letter with, there's at least more than 8 witnesses where he signed that letter, present. We were all present.
Okay, just a quick final one. On the press briefing that was held yesterday by the security cluster, it gave the impression that there were fears that there could be violence that breaks out following the remarks that were made by the former president during that press briefing. And I remember when there was when there was the launch of the MK party, the former president had said that the New People's War starts today. The only crucial difference is instead of the bullet this time, it will use the ballot. Does this mean that the MK party is still committed to a violent-free environment post these elections?
We're a violent-free, politically tolerant organization. We love South Africans, we love our country. The last thing we want is a situation where the temperature of this country leads to violence. We will continue to share with our members that they should restrain from any acts of violence. We will not tolerate any acts of violence. So, but what we're saying is that the IEC must intervene and deal with these issues that we've raised. We have to deal with these issues. We're not going to let these issues slide.
Okay. And when is the decision set to be made?
Which decision?
Around what to do?
Well, we're having discussions as of today, so we'll then make that call.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Nhlamulo Ndhlela is the spokesperson for the Umkhonto weSizwe political party.